Welcome. My name is Katie Joe, and I am a best-selling author. I am an artist, and I am passionate about world travel. For the last 20 years, I've been traveling the world looking and searching out sacred sites, tuning into the land, and activating the codes that are deep within them. I believe that the earth is still speaking and that it never stopped. I believe that we are natural beings, just like all of nature. And just like every other animal in nature can receive the messages of the earth and natural flows and rhythms of life, that we can too. My upcoming book that is going to be featured on season 1 of Writers Island TV talks about the sovereignty of the soul, and that we are all our spiritual guides, and that the answers are all within us. And so, as we offer and I launch this debut podcast, I want to just offer an idea that you know intuitively inside of you what is there for you and what your path is. When I look and I walk along the streets and I see all of the animals, and I mean I'm talking about like robins and all of these domesticated or in the city animals. It doesn't have to be out in nature. What I see is that they inherently know the way to live that's correct for them, and they're tuned into this guidance system that's within them. And I believe that humans have this ability too. And I think that we get stuck in ego. And I think that we get stuck in manners and societal pressures. And all of these things are contrary often. They're so interwoven, like dye in a glass of water, that changes it, that it's hard to know what is and isn't our natural instinct. Now, when we come to earth as sovereign souls, as souls that incarnate into physical bodies, I personally know and believe that this is the whole journey of this is for us to come and master the physical realm. And I don't mean master over, I don't mean power over. I simply mean that we come into this body, and the intention of coming into this body is to incarnate into a place with dense energies, with polarity, with dark and light and frequencies, because we are a soul. I mean, if you've ever seen life or death, there is a difference between this frequency and energy known as soul and life inside a body and when it's not. And so, this essence of who we truly are comes into the physical realm, into this body. And I believe we come in to master that. And that is learning to surpass what the physical realm is, but also to be woven within it. So I see a lot of people now that I've been in the new age world for quite a while. And I see a lot of bypassing. Oh, we're really these beings, so it doesn't really matter what happens in the physical body, or this is not who I really am, and this is all just an illusion. And to be honest and fair, I agree with all of that. But the purpose of coming into this body is to have this physical experience. And so this physical experience would include things such as learning to pay bills, taking care of the physical body that is your vehicle for experiencing this dimension, becoming entrapped in the illusion so that you can break out of the illusion. The idea that the illusion would be, I am this body, I am what I look like, I am my weight, my size, my frame, my money, my finances, my house, my car, so that would be the illusion. And it's important that we come and experience that so that we can know who we truly are, because unless we experience what we are not, then we can't truly know what we are. And so whether we're born into families that are highly religious, or whether we're born into families that are not, whether we choose into families or cultures or systems or countries, and I believe that the souls do. I believe we all choose what we choose into before we come to earth. And that's not excusing behavior. That's not excusing things. It's just simply saying that before we come into this physical experience, I believe that we're at free will and choice. And so as we do come into this experience, the whole purpose of that would be to know what we're not, so that we can then know what we are. And we come into this experience this physical dimension of going, hey, this is not who I am, and even having the blinders put on so that we can navigate that. So, a really good analogy for that, and I have this in my upcoming book, would be, does the acorn know that it's also the mighty oak? Does the yolk of the egg also know that it's the eagle? And so, in so many ways, when we incarnate into these physical bodies, we have no concept of what we truly are. We are the yolk, we are the acorn. Really, the physical dimension is this. And just like the analogy of the oak, the acorn that gets pressed into the darkness, and all it knows is that it can't see, that it doesn't know where it is, but there's something inside of it that's causing it, calling it, pulling it towards something, even though it doesn't know what that something is. That is just a metaphor for me that we can learn from nature for the spiritual evolvement of who we are and who we truly are. Because the acorn doesn't know that it's the oak. All it knows is that it's cracking open and that things feel dark. And as it does this, it stretches and it reaches for the way that seems correct, right? Doesn't know up from down, doesn't know left from right, doesn't know what light is. All it does is it stretches and it reaches and it says, there's something out there. I've got to find it. And as this natural process evolves, it breaks through the surface. And as it does, that breaking through also leaves it in tremendous vulnerability, because as now it's exposed to the elements, and it must trust because the environment around it is nourishing it. It's bringing the rains, it's bringing the nights and the sun, it's bringing everything that it needs to grow. And so it also goes deep. It extends deep and it extends up. And in our own spiritual journey, we must be grounded. As we come into this physical incarnation, we must be grounded. We can't just reach for the stars. We also have to understand how this dimension works and to navigate that. And through that, we can express ourselves. We can reach higher and higher. I once heard, so I can't take credit for this phrase, but when our roots are deep and strong, we can withstand the storms. And so we have to be able to master these things here. And then we can reach for spiritual concepts and surpass and go beyond them. And if we think about the little tiny egg yolk that then becomes the bird, the baby bird inside that egg, it has no idea what the sky is. It has no idea what a nest is. It only knows that the inside of the shell, it only knows that cocoon, and it's growing, and all of its needs are met. It might have some awareness of light or dark, but that is it. And then eventually it finds itself in a place where it's just so uncomfortable it can't stand it any longer, and it doesn't know why it can't move, and it doesn't know what it is that's out beyond the shell. It just knows that it can't stay there any longer. And I often will say to my coaching groups and the classes and events that I do, I'll say, wouldn't it be nice if when we break on through to the other side, that it was just this smooth little ride with little kittens running around that are soft? But usually we have to kick our way through. Usually we have to break our way through. And when that shell opens, when we go, it's too uncomfortable here, I've got to break through. When we break through onto the other side, there's a whole world that we couldn't even comprehend. We now see the sky. And the baby bird is vulnerable again. And does it know that it has the capacity to fly? Does the eagle at that moment know that it is also the king or queen of the skies, that it's one of the most majestic, inspiring animals on the planet, that it not only can fly to the highest heights, but it can also dive into the water, and that it can swim? That tiny little bird, going back to the egg yolk, has none of that awareness. All it knows is that I've got to break through. And it's the same. So let's follow the journey of this little eagle, because I do teach ancient earthway spirituality, and through that we look to nature, and knowing that all laws of spirituality exist around us if we'll simply watch. And so as we look at this eagle that grows from the oak and then turns into the bird and then says, I've got to break through, I've got to go farther, I don't know what it is, but something's out there, and it breaks through and it faces that vulnerability, and it must trust. It must depend upon those that have come before, its parents, mentors, It's there sheltered in the little tiny nest, but then the next feat is it doesn't know it can fly, and often it gets pushed out of the nest, right? How often have I felt like I'm getting pushed out of where it was comfortable? Look, all my needs are met. I don't have to go out there and hunt. My mentors and guides are just bringing me the sustenance I need. But the next step of evolvement for that beautiful eagle is that it must leap out of the nest, and it must wobble, and it must risk, and it must not know how it's going to land. It might even land harshly, it might even hurt. But again and again and again, as it goes, it learns to fly. And soon it is the bird that can go higher than almost any other bird. It is stronger. It is the 10 times the strength of the human grasp. It can hunt from hillsides. It can hunt goats and sheep. It's just this phenomenal hunter and master of the skies. And in fact, the eagle itself, it doesn't get caught up when crows peck it. It actually just flies higher. It doesn't even bother fighting because it knows who it is. And all of that exists in the tiny little the yolk. Just like the mighty oak, which is one of the strongest and considered the most reverent and sacred trees, is contained within that acorn. But when it's in the dark, all it knows is that I'm cracking open and I can't stay here. So, if I were going to offer any comfort, any guidance, or for this first blog post with the idea of the sovereign soul, it's that this experience often replicates what we see in nature. We don't know who we are until we are. We don't know our strengths until we are pushed to embody those. We don't know where we're going until we are willing to risk and expand and break out of what we were already in and risk and be vulnerable. And it's all part of the plan. So thank you for listening. I trust and hope that this was of value to you, and tune in for the next.